A little while ago, Spinosauruskin did a hangout with Captain Mikul, who is both a non-feminist and both a non-MRA, and he has a male-focused humanitarian agenda. He has stated that he's got plenty of feminist friends and allies. He's a psychologist,
I'm a psychologist.
and he's really big on research.
So my main focus is on research.
During the 2-hour interview, which I'll be linking to in the low bar, the captain discoursed on the men's rights movement and on my friend Paul Elam, and I found his take on these things to be rather problematic.
That's not, I mean, there's articles in The Voice for Men that I've disagreed with. I haven't looked at it for ages because I used to get pretty worried reading it.
I haven't read anything from A Voice for Men in ages either.
And the fact that I've got a big problem with Paul Elam, the fact that he's kind of been seen as the leader of it, and I think he's just very nasty about a lot of things, and just isn't good for men at all.
He's nasty about a lot of things. Now, it may seem like the captain is going to do what everyone does when they badmouth Paul Elam and just make some hand-waving reference to all the terrible things he's said and done without providing any actual specific instances of misbehavior. But the captain is different. He demonstrates his familiarity with Paul and AVFM here.
I remember a while back, when I was still thinking of getting into the MRM, I was watching a load of Karen Strawn videos and occasionally popping on A Voice for Men to look at stuff. Really wish I could remember more articles now from it, because it was a good, I think it was almost 2 years ago now. I remember an article from Paul Elam about why you should, like, basically all psychology is junk and all psychology is hate. And I'm a psychologist, and my dissertation and potential research career, if I can get one, but you know, research in this country is a bit difficult, is to use psychology to try and reduce the harm that is done to men and boys in our society. And here you've got someone who is the kind of perceived leader. I'm not going to call him a leader because he's not, but perceived leader of the men's rights movement, basically saying ignore all psychology.
Paul Elam wrote an article saying that all psychology is junk and all psychology is hate, and that people should ignore all psychology. Well, that is strange, considering that Paul Elam co-authored a book with Dr. Tara Paul-Maltier, who holds a clinical doctorate in psychology. He's done a lot of AVFM radio shows and hangouts with her over the years, all on the subject of psychology. She runs a practice called Shrink for Men, which specifically caters to men recovering from psychologically traumatic relationships. You might even say she's using psychology to reduce the harm to men in our society. Paul has also done a lot of work with Tom Golden, who is a licensed master of clinical social work and is currently a psychotherapist in private practice. Tom's career has also focused on men's health. He's written a book called The Way Men Heal, and he's served as the vice chairman of the Maryland Commission for Men's Health. Now, since Paul has maintained professional relationships and personal friendships with Tom and Tara for years, and because he has years of experience himself as an addictions counselor, I think he's quite qualified to offer the men's counseling service that he does, which is called An Ear for Men. It has its own YouTube channel, which I'll link to in the low bar. First of all, Captain, if you went to AVFM and you got that Paul Elam thinks that all psychology is junk and hate, I don't think you're quite suited to a career in research. And secondly, you, a psychologist, smeared a man's name with a characterization that couldn't possibly be further from the mark, and he's the one who's really nasty and isn't good for men. Hey, I'm going to pose a scenario to you, and I want your professional opinion. Now, suppose that for years on end, all kinds of people were demonizing the same man with wildly inaccurate characterizations. Suppose that all that demonization made more people even more comfortable spouting off even more wildly inaccurate mischaracterizations about that guy. What kind of psychological effect do you think that would have on him? Do you think it would be ethical for a psychologist to join in such a campaign of slander? Captain, I think that if you're serious about wanting to help men, you can start by apologizing to a man that you have wronged, Paul Elam. I can tell you that he's a big believer in forgiveness, and I think he would be inclined to forgive you since he already likes your work. He mirrored your Mankind Initiative fundraiser video. So, Captain, I'm going to leave you now with some wise words from a great man.
Like, if you're going to represent someone's view, even if you think he's an arsehole, at least represent his arsehole views correctly.